Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon when you consume your media. Welcome to Run It Back, episode number 75. I am your host, Menelik Fernandez. Thank you so much for continuing to tune in, join, listen, contribute, all of that. I really appreciate. The premise of Run It Back, of course, remains the same, where we take teams that have played previously and we run it back, so to speak, where we take a look at, the intricacies of how we prepare, in-game adjustments, why we did some of the things that we did as coaches, what we would do differently if we had, the ideal world of being able to go back in time and look at some of our errors or clean some things up. And, as all of the previous episodes, I'm very fortunate to have coaches from the game join us. So today we're looking at a game from July 3rd, 2021, which is RMIT versus Wallan. And we have Coach Oliver Reid joining us, who is the head coach with RMIT. Coach Reid, give me a second. I'm going to try to do you justice with a little bit of a warm welcome here. He has been a head coach at RMIT since 2020 in September. He was a player and coach development director from July 2020 at the same place as well. He has been an operations manager with Showtime Basketball for 7 months previously. He was a youth men's head coach for almost 4 years with the Coburg Giants. He was a director of a YMCA in Victoria for 2 years. And he spent 1.5 years as a club manager and 10 months as an assistant manager with the Jets of Australia. Coach Oliver Reid, who is also a Rising Coaches member, such as myself. I am very, very thankful and happy to be able to sit down, spend some time with you, and hear about this fantastic season that you guys unfortunately were unable to complete. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic.
Welcome.
Well, yeah, fantastic intro. Yes. I'm very lucky to be the head coach at RMIT Men's University Basketball Team. We had a fantastic season. And as you said, unfortunately for those elsewhere, our season, like many others, was hampered by COVID. And due to that and the ongoing issues of COVID here in Australia, it was deemed we cancelled the season with 17 games played and no losses for us. So we're a little bit, we were a bit of a tough one to not have anything to hang on in the rafters after a season like that, especially from the players' perspective. But it is what it is. We can't do much about it. So we've had a bit of time to digest that meal a little bit since. So now we're accepting of it, and we're just gonna get on and start preparing. We'll start preparing now for next season, essentially. So
that's it. Love it. So give us a little bit of a background about your league, the level of play, etc., that goes on there. As somebody who's living over, across the pond, so to speak, and doesn't have much of a background as to what goes on at the college university level there. Give us a little bit of background of, like amount of team, style of play, all of that, anything.
Yeah. So we play what we call the Big V, which is our state league. So we've got our states here in Australia. And all our states have their own semi-professional leagues. So although we're a university team, we're actually classified as a semi-professional team, very similar to probably a watered-down European version. So, there are club teams and then there are university teams, and we all play in the same competition at a senior level. And the Big V itself is actually one of the biggest, or is the biggest semi-professional league in Australia. It has 3 divisions across the board. We play in Division 2 in that league. And so we have, I guess, a combination of full-time players, part-time players, and amateurs that play in our teams. So to give you guys an example, we'll play teams that'll have a couple of guys that are paid, maybe part-time, semi-pro, and then they might have an American who's their full-time pro. And so you're allowed to have an import in our divisions. You're allowed to have 1 import in our division, Division 2. We're allowed to have 1 import, and we do. We have an import. We have a fantastic point guard in Steve Coffey from the States, from Philadelphia. So we got him in here as well, and he's played all over the world himself. He's played in places like France as well. So we got him involved, and then we've got our amateur players some of them are alumni of the university, some of them are current students of the university, and we're really lucky. We use RMIT University. We use the power of obviously the game much similar to what happens in the States and probably in Canada as well, to promote the university and on what the university does well. And the University RMIT is known for its osteo side of things, osteo physio, and then also media as well. So we incorporate a lot of that and use that as a building block for a lot of the students on campus as well. So we've got a lot of students that are involved in our analytics.
That's awesome.
Gym and stuff like that. So we kind of level off a lot of that, which is we're different to other club teams, whereas a club team here in our division, they would have like a European style where it's like under 12, under 14s, under 16 senior team. We don't have that. We're basically we've got a senior men's team and a senior women's team. And obviously we're lucky that we've got students that play the game in what you would call, I guess, would be intramural sports across the pond. But here we call it uni games. And so we're able to draw younger players and fresh players from there. But essentially we recruit everybody in, and it's a different culture. I've coached at club programs before. It's a very different culture being at a university. But actually it's really enjoyable because we have so much resource available to us on campus.
That sounds great. I actually wish that we would sort of adopt this semi-pro model. I've heard of it through, as you mentioned, like other places in Europe sort of have it as well. And I think it makes the game a little bit more competitive because you get an idea, like, you know, I would assume that most of your imports are going to be pretty talented, and you get an idea of what like you're playing up to, aspiring towards type deal, and helps keep you focused, and the level of competition varies across the board. I like it overall as a model.
Yeah, and look, I think our team's pretty young. Like even, you know, like for our division, I think our team's pretty young. Like we're probably in that sort of like, you know, 20 to 25-year-old range. So we're still very much a university sort of age team. And then we've just packed that in with a couple of older guys or more experienced guys. And our import is one of them. You know, he's 30 plus. I don't want to give away too much of his age because he don't like that. But he's, you know, he's 30 plus and he's got plenty of experience playing overseas. So he then comes into a younger group and he's able to help guide that. But a lot of our players also are ex-NCAA players.
Right.
You know, so we got a lot of kids that have gone to the NCAA, maybe played D2, D3 themselves, Australians, and then they come back here, and then we scoop them up and put them in our teams. And likewise, this competition, the Big V, has produced a lot of NCAA players. So a lot of 17, 18-year-olds play in the league. It's fully statistical. All games are filmed. And so it makes it really easy then for coaches, especially at the club level. You've got the younger teams, younger players, and that's what I used to do at previous teams. I used to work with some of the younger players to get them opportunities then to go play in the States. So it produces a lot of. So if you're a recruiter and you're listening, go and watch some Big V games. There's some great talent out there.
Yeah, you heard it here first. If you didn't know already,
give everybody the tips.
There you go. What's interesting, just following up on that, is we don't have a clock in Canada. So what I mean by that is, for anybody who doesn't know, is like you have X amount of semesters to play the college university level after you graduate high school. So we not last season, 2 seasons ago, we were famous in Canada because we had a 38-year-old bus driver join a team out of Ottawa. And he was doing really well. I mean, he was 6'8". Let's not get that wrong. He's a big guy, but you know, he was still driving the local bus and going to school and playing college basketball. So it does sort of, like I say, provide for that across the board experience where you see a different level of player than you would if you were just competing against, say, NCAA level age. But let's move away from the league a little bit and let's delve into this game. Where are you in the season at this point? Have you played these guys before? You know, how many days from the last game till this game do you have to prepare? And then we'll get into a little bit of what your process is for preparation.
Yeah, so we come actually off a COVID break. So we had a couple of little COVID stops and starts to the season. I know this was sort of just prior to one, and we were in between a couple, so I can't quite remember the exact phase of that, but I know that we'd come off a short break. We weren't able to train, weren't able to access our facilities for maybe a week or so, 2 weeks prior to this. Got on the floor. We'd played Wallan previously, probably 5 weeks ago, when I've got the fixture here somewhere in front of me. They're a good team. They're a top 4 team. They've got a lot of shooters that we were aware of when we played them previously. They've got a great import, Sharif Black. He was averaging near 35, 38 points a game. So we knew what we were coming into there. We'd beaten them quite convincingly at their place. And a lot of that was down to how we dealt with Sharif Black, and I'll go into more detail about that later. But so yes, this is a funny game for us. We kind of really wanted to get this win. We're at home. It was a bit of a statement win. We're still on a roll, obviously. We're still I think we're 15-0 still. Everybody's hunting us now, and especially Wallan. They're thinking to themselves, well, we can get a win against these guys. This will, push their season ahead.
Right.
And obviously they're trying to get a sucker punch on us during the season as well, because everybody wants to beat us now.
Of course, yeah.
That's where we're at.
Large target on your back at this point.
Very large target.
For sure. Have you ever been part of an undefeated season before?
I have been as a player, and it is a special thing to be involved in. And as a coach, it's nerve-wracking. Is the only way I would describe it as a coach. I think the players may have loved it. I was sort of just trying to continue to do things the same way all the time. And in the back of my mind, I always think to myself, well, we're going to lose one, aren't we? Like, we're going to lose a game, right? Like, it's just going to, trying to have that calm collectedness of, the reality is we can't possibly, at this level of competition, go through the season undefeated. Obviously, things continue to go on. Who knows? We had 2 games left or 3 games left before the playoffs. Who knows if we go on and win it, and win it all. But yeah, it was definitely a surreal experience. I
personally have been part of it as a player as well, but not at a very high level, like a high school age. But as a coach, I've never experienced it. And I wonder often, like you said, it's nerve-wracking. You don't want to let them down. You want to give them all the tools to arm themselves. You want to be prepared, make the right choices, all of that, because it's like, man, these guys they're giving it their all. This is something special happening right here.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it though was just we didn't really change anything we did, and I know I joke about it to my players, I joke about it to my other coaches. I'm pretty boring, I pretty much did the same things every week, progressively changing things up slightly with scouts and things like that. But our training sessions were very similar in the way they were processed, our warm up to our transition work, into our defensive skill work. It was very similar each week, and the longer the season went on, the more I was really hammered to that and was really not wanting to, and without having a superstition, it felt like a superstition anyway. It was like, okay, we're just going to keep doing this same transition drill every training session because it's working. So
can we do? Nope. We're good the way that we are.
Yeah,
right
we're good. Yeah.
So let's get into the preparation for this game. Let's talk about your scout. So, how many games out are you watching? What goes into the scout itself? How is that delivered? Are you doing everything yourself, or do you have assistants that help? All those fun things. So let's go through the process.
Yeah, so I got two assistants with me, and then I've got 2 analytics guys that help out with some numbers and stuff if I need to pull that data as well. And so I'm pretty lucky in that sense. My assistant Jesse Zane, he would help and offer a lot in regards to the scout. My other assistant, Coach T, he was actually the head coach of the women's team. So a lot of his, I try not to burden him too much because obviously he's trying to prepare his women's team as well with RMIT each week. But Jesse would put together some pretty solid notes, and we're working probably a week and a half out, maybe 2 games out. Because of the way the league is, we only play on the weekends. So we're only playing Saturday, Sundays, or both in a weekend. We can have a double weekend sometimes. So for me, so much changes because it's semi-pro and amateur. You've got players that are in and out quite regularly. It's not, it's not like a pro league where, the same guys are playing every week. And that is the case most of the time. But I'm always very mindful of, watching film from 5 games ago, and then they don't do any of that when you come to play them. So I find just picking up the last sort of 2 games, 2 or 3 games that they've played, the last 2 weekends basically, and what some of their trends in the last 2 weeks. And then obviously looking back as to if we have played them before in season, what's that going to provide us as well. So yeah, probably looking at 2 or 3 games plus some notes. I journal about each game, so I've got my own notes when we've played teams, things I could or shouldn't done, from previous. So I look back on those as well. So yeah, that's sort of where we start. Is probably just with that film, and then we use Huddle. Huddle's one of our league supports our league, so we use Huddle to break our film down, and then we start to begin breaking the scout down from there.
So what would be the length of the scout, and is it film plus paper? Is it just one of the two? What is the delivery method to your guys?
For me, I'm short and sweet. My guys are semi-professional. I don't see them every day. We train 3 times a week. Plus they do their shooting on their own with another coach or with a teammate. So I don't have the availability to sit down with guys for an hour at training. We train for 2 hours every night when we do train. So I like to send them their scout to their inbox, which is how we use Huddle. And it's normally a 10-minute scout.
Okay.
Coaches will be rolling over. It's a 10-minute scout. It's very focused on what we want. I've got more information than they do. I give them the information I think they need to see, but we don't use any paper scouts. We might move into a bit more sort of paper stuff, but I just find the paper stuff, guys just don't read it. Guys aren't interested. If they can watch it on their phone for 10 minutes, get a bit of a feel for maybe their matchup, whoever they're playing against, and then we take that onto the court, and we do a lot of our scout work on the floor.
Love it. You'd be surprised, actually. You said some people would be rolling, but 10 minutes, there's a spectrum, I would say. And for some people, 10 minutes is actually long. And for others, it's short compared to what they're trying to do or whatever. Coaches, this is kind of what I love about doing this, is that everybody's doing something different, and everybody finds value with different things, and players receive things differently too. So while you might have a coach that sits sort of on this end of the spectrum, some players need a coach who's on this end of the spectrum in terms of how short or how long things are and what is entailed inside of it. So would you focus more on their actions or particular players, or what is the crux of the video that you're delivering? And then when you move on to the floor, are you focusing more on yourself or on them?
Yeah, so the film itself, 5 to 10 minutes, depending on who we're playing, depends on what that scout kind of looks like, obviously. So for me, if we're playing a team that's got a significant star player, and I mean like a significant scorer, offensive threat, we will break some film down of that player, because I think that's really important, because we're going to have to, at some point, create a matchup for that player. If we're playing a team that maybe's got a guy who averages 20-something points, but we don't think he's a legitimate star, they're just a good team, we'll just worry about what they do. So for this scout with Wallan, it was a bit of both. We want to look at what they do. The first things I like to look at is how teams defend on ball screens. We're a ball screen heavy team. I want to know how teams defend on ball screens. Do they go under? Do they hedge? How do they guard it? Because that for me then opens up how we're going to attack them. And I think that's a positive way to start a scout, is what are we going to do rather than what are we going to defend? I want to see how are we going to be aggressive here? All right, these guys, they switch on baseline screens, they fight on pin downs. Okay, great. Well, that gives us an opportunity now to have a look at what we can do offensively. And then I move into their more popular sets, stuff that they've run a lot of. And I guess that's where I make a lot of my notes, because I'm watching the film and Jesse's watching the film. We're putting in a lot of notes, but then a lot of that stuff doesn't make the scout. It all sits with us. But we'll put in some stuff like, okay, they run a lot of this, horn set, which is what Wallan did. They ran a lot of horn set for Sharif.
We got a couple clips of that. Just looking at
they want to attack downhill. They want to get him going. Now, previously, they were very reliant on him. And in the last couple of weeks, they had started to share the ball a little bit more. And so that was something we were concerned about going into this game, was how they would play a little bit differently. Because Sharif started to pass the ball around. Let's be honest, he was really carrying that team quite heavily. And that's not a good or a bad thing. That's just how they chose to play it. But they started to really share the ball around the previous 2 weeks. So we were aware that we're going to have to guard more than Sharif, whereas previously we really dropped in the hole and defended it a little differently. So those sort of things. So yeah, we start out, we break down what we're going to attack, what they kind of do. And then for Sharif, we did actually have a look at like how he, some of his, I guess his ticks and movements that he likes to do to get himself open. And then that's it really. And that's what, 5 to 10 minutes max, that's the cutout.
So this is awesome for me because this is a question I've kind of moved away from because I find that not everybody is doing this. But when you talk about the segment of what you're looking to attack, and you mentioned the way that they guard a ball screen specifically, when you're working with your guys from preseason all the way through, are you showing them various coverages and various ways to attack the different coverages all the time? Or let's say, 15 games in is the first time you're going to see somebody who's hard hedging or somebody who's, going under and an extreme drop as well, or nexting, whatever it is, the first time you're seeing a coverage. Are you then only implementing it in that week and then sort of being like, this is the way we want to attack this?
No, we guard on balls pretty heavily, obviously, because we do a lot of on ball at training, and we will switch up how we cover it at training, especially early in the season. And then in all our scrimmages, we'll just change it up. So we will switch. We were probably better known for icing ball screens, which is not as common in our league for whatever reason. We chose to ice a lot of side ball screens, especially. And so that was something that we played against ourselves because we were obviously working on it. And then we did a little bit of drop coverage stuff here and there, but not a lot. But I look at my players and think, well, my guys are intelligent enough. We can put things in and show them how to attack something. And a lot of the time it was we would send them to film. When we got to training, we would ask that question at training. What did you see that we could exploit?
Right.
I want to see if they're thinking the same thing I'm thinking. I want to see if they've watched the film. I want to know if they're sort of thinking what the coaches are thinking. And sometimes they don't have to think what we're thinking. Maybe they're thinking something different, and that's okay too. I like that. I think that's what makes coaching fun. Is when my players come up to me and be like, hey, coach, I watched the film and I think I can take this guy down here and seal him up. And it's like, hey, yeah, we didn't even think of that. Like we weren't even looking at that option,
right.
or maybe I can slip this earlier. Maybe when he shows this, I can slip it. And I'll be like, yeah, great. Let's do that. Let's give that a shot.
It's beautiful when those things are constructive and not in left field. When they come to you with something and you're like, yeah, that's actually pretty good, as opposed to, yeah, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, and I've said it before to people, right? I think you've got to ask your players questions, right? And I think that's an important part of creating a relationship and giving ownership to your culture too as a coach. But you've got to be prepared as a coach that sometimes they're going to give you a great answer. Sometimes they're going to give you an off-the-wall answer. And sometimes they're going to give you the wrong answer. And for me, it's none of it's incorrect. I then look at it from my own perspective and I go, okay, well, if they've given me the wrong answer, is that because I've communicated that incorrectly? Are they giving me the wrong answer, not because they're stupid, but because I haven't told them enough detail, or maybe I haven't given them enough information? Right. And is their off the wall answer, should it be completely dismissed, or should we just sit on it for a second and just think about it? Because it's come from somewhere.
Right.
That answer's come from somewhere. Like nobody stands in front of you, I don't think, disrespectively and comes up with a stupid answer. I just don't think I don't think humans think like that. I know, I just don't think that happens, right? So when my player does give me something that maybe is a little bit, like, oh, what's that? I'm like, hold on a minute. He's thinking or seeing something I'm not seeing, or maybe he's not understanding something that I'm saying or that we're doing. And so I then need to touch base with that player again, or we need to find out the cause or where that pattern's coming from. So yeah, I like wrong answers because it reminds me I've got to keep getting better. So, so there's nothing wrong with that.
The teacher mentality of it. And I also love the humility behind it. It makes sense to me. Sometimes I'll have a bit of a giggle with a player sometimes. So it's
of course.
I don't know about that one, man, but okay.
Yeah, are you watching the same film I'm watching? Yeah, totally. Like,
There's a
I can
basketball
walk.
game on, right? Like,
I might not say it in front of the group, but I definitely walk past an assistant coach an hour later and be like, "Is this guy serious? Is this guy for real?" Yeah, but that's the joy of it, huh? That's the joy.
yeah, for sure. So let's talk about like things like matchups or pace of play or offensive rebounding style. For those kinds of things, are you doing the same thing every time, or are you switching it game to game versus opponents? And like what sort of are your baseline theories on those kinds of things? Are you giving
Yeah,
everybody all the matchups? Are you playing a certain offensive rebounding style, etc.?
yeah. We might have already decided early on in the week. We know our defenders, our guys. Obviously, we might decide early on who's going to guard the star player, who's going to guard a particular matchup, which we did in this respect to this game. We kind of had our two guys that were like, right, you guys are going to guard. Or actually, we had our one guy. You're going to be guarding Sharif, and so when we go scout team versus main team, we make sure we put him on a like for like player when we're doing that. So matchup wise, yes, we can determine our matchups early. Sometimes us as coaches determine the matchups, but then we don't tell the players. So then we work on it at training, and then that way that player doesn't feel that. I always think sometimes a player loves that pressure of knowing they've got the matchup. Sometimes you can overthink it too much,
Right.
So we might, I know I've certainly had in my mind, we got a great guy in our team, Daniel Steen. He's great at getting his hands in the passing lanes. And I've already decided a week out he's guarding this guy, but I haven't told him. I'll tell him on Saturday night. Yeah, I'll get my assistant coach to tell him on Saturday night when he hands out the matchups during warm-ups. And because things change, I think I've learned over the time that things just change. You can turn up on a Saturday night and, that guy's injured. That guy's
Right.
not there.
Right.
And then that guy's had this mentality all week of guarding this guy. And then he's not there. How does he adjust? So, yeah, there's a little bit of that, not so early. For us, offensively, we're a pace team. We're a transition team. We have been from game one in preseason up until this game and onwards, and we'll continue to be so. We spread the floor, we push the ball, we get it up the line quickly, and we want to attack, it's off the missed shot. So we don't offensive rebound particularly. We never have. We send our forwards to the glass and that's it. I don't. That's my only rule. I just 5-man only, or basically whoever's on the block, whoever's in the lane can go and rebound. Offensively, defensively, we actually try to get as many guys on there as we can, so as we can get out quickly. And a big part of that is actually our point guard, Steve Coffey. He collects a lot of rebounds because we want him to go and get the ball. Because we want the ball in his hand, and then he can push it early. He certainly can pick up a lot in the rebounding department as well. So I mean, I think he had like double digits rebounds in this game himself. So for a point guard, and he's not a big guy either. Like he'd be 6 foot maybe.
Yeah, no, that's great when you have a guy that can get in there and then push the ball right away. It definitely changes the flow of things.
We don't want the ball too. When we defensive rebound, we want our guys to clear the foul line. So we don't want, like, I'm happy, like, if my small forward, power forward gets the rebound, put the ball on the floor.
Love it.
Dribble it out. I don't want them to get it and then looking around for a point guard. It's too slow. Like, get it on the floor, get it ahead. And then you can find Steve. He'll be next to you. And now Steve's on the move.
Right.
So now when Steve gets given the ball, he's flying up the floor. And I've got to trust my 7-footer to put the ball on the floor. He can dribble for 4 or 5 dribbles. Like, I'm happy for him to go the full length of the floor if he can do it. But if he stuffs it up, I'm probably going to have a go at him. But if he can do it, do it. Like, get out there. Get up the floor.
And would that be part of their skill development at all, or would that just be like trial and error, see if they can do it, and then sort of rein it back in if they can't?
No, that's just what we push at training. We'll just get better at it. We'll just get better at it. Some guys it's going to be 1 or 2 dribbles. Some guys it's going to be 4 or 5 dribbles. Some guys are going to get over halfway. But our mentality is always to get the ball up the sideline, fire it up the floor quickly where possible. If we can't fire it up the floor, don't walk it up. We don't want to walk it up too often. We don't want teams to get set at all. And I think it worked for us all season. And look, that's just the way I coach.
I love it. As far as in game, what kinds of things are you guys tracking as a coaching staff, if anything at all? And then what's important to you on a box score?
Yeah. Don't really look at box scores all that often, if I'll be honest. And I say box scores is our statistical sheet that we get given at quarter time and half time. The only real thing I'm wanting to do is double check our fouls on our players to make sure they correlate with what's happening at the bench to what we've got with our assistant coaches. We look at offensive rebounds for the opposition. Are we kicking them off the O boards? And free throw shooters in the fourth quarter. That's about the only thing I worry about on a box score. And even I don't even generally even look at it. If I'll be honest with you, I don't look at it till the game ends. My assistant coaches get the printout and they tell me the answers of the questions I've asked, and that's about it. So I don't really look at the live stat stuff too often. On the bench, we chart deflections because that's a big part of our defensive mentality. We know that 15 plus deflections says that we're up in the lanes and we're causing havoc. And deflections don't have to be steals, but they certainly obviously mess around with people's shot clocks. We run with a 24 here, so if we can get a deflection, fumble, find the ball, slows everything down. We look at stops, kills, so we want three kills.
Interesting.
3 stops in a row for a kill. That's a big part of us, and then kills to conversion. And then the last part is the guys behind me, our stat guys, Stefan, he would chart contested and uncontested shots for us and them, heavily, medium, uncontested 2s and 3s. And then that gives us an idea as to whether or not we are running guys off the line, forcing guys into 2s over 3s, those type of things. And that's a big stat for us. It's a really, really important live stat for us that we chart in game and that we're very much aware of.
So that last one I love. There is a bit of subjectivity to it. I would assume you always have the same person doing it, so it sort of remains the same. Give us sort of like a guideline as to what categorizes each of the categories for you.
Obviously, wide open 3-pointer, open, got there but didn't quite get there, medium, and then heavy contested is, hand in the face, got to shoot over an open arm, a tall arm. That's a heavily contested shot. And we don't look at the inside stuff. And then we're looking at jump shots, mid-range jump shots, those type of things. So he looks at that. He may also, at times, when we've played teams with particularly great shooters, he'll have a separate, he's got his laptop in front of him. He'll have a separate, column with a particular player on it. So we're keeping an eye on a particular player and how they're charting things. So we're generally we're a no middle team, hence the reason we ice ball screens. We force everything to the what you call short corner. Right. That's where we want teams to shoot. We want teams to shoot pull-up jump shots in the short corner because my belief is at our level here, it's not a common shot from an offensive structure point of view. It doesn't give you the use of the backboard. The rebound is pretty predictable. It's generally going to go over the far side or the front, unless they're shooting short, obviously. Right. And I just think it's a tough shot. I think it's a tough shot, and I think it forces a lot of misses. So that's the ideal defensively. The shot we want is a short corner jump shot. But anytime a player comes off the 3-point line and is forced to shoot a contested 3 or a contested 2, we are winning.
I would agree with everything you just said. And what I find really interesting about where you're forcing the ball is I instantly think of little kids trying to shoot layups when they veer off a drive line and they're shooting like a fadeaway over, and you're always like, that's just a terrible shot. Why are you shooting it? And then the other thing I would think of is I think that almost takes away the corner 3 on the strong side of the floor because you're probably not going to help off of that offensive player.
No, we don't come off the corner. No, we never come off the corner. We help from the low man only. We don't really put a high man in help either. So we are really trying to force guys down the line, as we call it. We don't want anybody coming through the funnel at the top of the lane because guys get through the foul line. That causes all sorts of issues. So that's a big part. It's not to say that we don't help. in that area, but we're not putting a guy on the nail in that sort of traditional shell style help position.
Right.
We're staying a little bit more on the elbow, so we can hedge over and show help, but we're staying close enough so that, yeah, if you're going to drive, you're going to beat us on twos. That we say that all year, and I'll probably repeat that again in this interview. But yeah, you got to beat us on twos. You want to beat us on twos. I just don't think with our pace of play this past season that teams could beat us on twos alone. And then we've got big rim protectors. You know, we've got a 7-footer and 6'8" guys at the rim. That, yeah, if you want to drive in. Yeah.
Your 7-footer is a big guy. He even looks big on film, so he's a big guy for sure. I can tell.
He's a very nice man. He's a very, very nice man.
Love it. So just into the last thing that I have for questions really is you kind of mentioned that you do a bit of journaling. Do you do anything that sort of compares the scout that you deliver to the game and gives you something like, hey, I probably missed this and needed to include it next time, or this was right on and we had execution problems here? Is there any sort of self-assessment of what you're delivering to your players specifically, or things that go into the game plan?
No, I think my journal is generally a self-assessment of me and how I've coached. You know, it's what I could have done, what I should have done, and maybe what I did really well. Like, I like that matchup we chose, or I like that end ball play we used, those type of things. But no, I don't really go and look at my scout and think, oh, you know, it was wrong, or what was I looking at? That just goes into that journal if I made that error.
Right.
But, you know, I think because we don't sell ourselves on the scout all the way, and it's just part of our build up to the week. It's not something that we're sitting on and watching an hour's worth of film, and then, you know, maybe it takes up 20 minutes of training, you know, half an hour of training is max. One session a week for half an hour, we're worrying about scout team versus, you know, our team. Yeah, I don't think we put weight into it because it's important, but I don't think we say that that's the reason why we win or lose games. It's because of our scout.
Love it. I'm going to move into a bit of video. While I am doing that, just one more sort of question that has just kind of popped into my mind. How deep will you play on your bench typically? Are you like a 7-8 guy, or are you an all 12 type guy?
Look, we've got a very deep bench. I think we generally play about 9 guys. I would say 9 guys across the board, and that all obviously depends on foul trouble and shooting and those type of things. But we've got some pretty interchangeable pieces. But yeah, we probably play max 9 on a regular basis, and then maybe, you know, 10, 11 in a nice win. And I'm very mindful that, again, we're a semi-professional league. Our guys give up a lot of their time, and they're amateurs. So, you know, where possible, I still want to try to give our bench as much time on the floor, because they deserve it too, as much as the starters.
Love it. So this, as I said, I'll play each clip 3 times for anybody who's watching at a later date type deal. This first clip is just their first play of the game. So I put in defending their first play of the game. Looks like a cross screen, down screen, and an open jump shot up top. So just for anybody who's listening, they dribble to the offensive right slot, I would call it. There's the cross screen underneath the basket, and then comes up to the point for the shot. The ball's punched to the post and then kick back out. Open 3. Talk to me about the way you want to guard this normally, what you like about what you did, what you don't like about what you did. Obviously not, we're not results oriented in feedback here. So if they score, we don't care as much as like what you're doing type deal.
Yeah, I liked how Fisto guarded the ball here. We know Sharif's a threat to drive. He's given him some space here. I would have liked us to fight a little bit more on these things. We talk about off-ball screens that we want to try to fight over and switch last rather than switch early. I think we've sort of accepted switching here a little bit too early. From the looks of it, you know, I'm going to guess there wasn't great communication on this one. There's a little bit of hesitation from the 2 guys in the low spot before they sort of made that switch. And so that seems to have then set us on a poor track. to begin with. So yeah, for me there, I'd have liked us to make a little bit more contact with the cutters and the screeners and maybe tie them up a little bit more, be a bit more physical, which we can do in this league. And yeah, you can see there, there's no communication there. That we're happy to switch, but like you can't have one guy diving back to the ball, diving back to the low man cut here. Really, it's one or the other.
So this was actually kind of something that I looked at and was wondering if this was part of your scout or not. So on this cross screen that happens underneath, you guys actually sort of show for a second and then go back type deal. And you sort of just said that that's not something that you want to do.
Not something we normally do. No, not something. We're either going to switch that or we're going to fight over and stay. And so for me, there it just looks like the fight and stay or the switch wasn't spoken about. Seems like the low guy tried to fight over late, and we didn't really show. But look, they tried to show there, which is fine, and recover. Probably a mildly contested shot. It is what it is.
Right. This is you guys' first play. I've got a couple empty side pick and rolls that I pulled in. Just want to hear sort of your philosophies and your teaching points, etc. But first play of the game, what are you looking at establishing? What are you looking at going at? For anybody who's listening, there's some help side action where there's just an interchange. Ball's in the offensive right slot. Then we pop to the ball and we get an empty side screen and roll for an early pocket pass. Great finish at the rim. Talk to me about that. What are we looking for?
This is probably a little bit of a slower set for us. I think we took our time getting into this. I don't know, normally we flow into this action, like this is the 4-man coming down, shift the ball, and get into that open side ball screen. But yeah, as I said, we are a ball screen heavy team. We're a pick and roll team. That's what we want to do. And so we wanted to get straight at them straight away. We're not convinced that they can guard us on the perimeter like this with our bigs. They're going to drop in the hole and it's going to cause some health issues. So for me, straight away, this is we script our first 3 plays before every game, and this is on the script. I won't give away our play calls too much, but yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into this action early, and let's attack them with one of our studs on the ball.
Love it. You did mention it's scripted. That was going to be one of my questions. My next question would be, would you have like a minimum number of passes or minimum number of sides that you would want to work on this, or first earliest opportunity that is a good one, go for it type deal?
We don't pass the ball around too much. We just want to get it to our best guys, put them in their best situation and get them at the rim. He's
the meat and potatoes guy, everybody. Meat and potatoes, right to it.
Mate, we don't have a 45-second or 80-second shot clock that guys have got in the US to mess around with this thing, or Canada. What you guys got to say? You guys running a 30?
No, we're 24. We're playing FIBA as well.
Okay.
So
yeah, so
look, like, let's get to the rack.
Let's not messing around here, right? I haven't got time. We might do maybe a false action, maybe one false action, maybe. But really, no, let's just get it. I'm always a believer that, we want to get the ball into whoever it is, our better players' hands in their best position to shoot their best shot. And that to me is exactly what happened there. JR is one of our better guys. That's his best position going to the rim. He's quite athletic. He can change direction really quickly. He's very mobile, big. And we got him there. And we also had Fisto, who can also drive the ball into the lane. Is a strong finisher and actually a fantastic shooter. So they have to respect both those in that pick and roll. They can't disrespect one for the other.
And will you run this early to just sort of get a feel for the type of coverage that they would be playing on the wing ball screen?
Oh, totally. Yeah, straight away. Yeah, straight away. This tells me that they're doing their drop, which they've done previously. They're trying to drop and fight. And that, 100%. We want to go ball screen early because it tells us what they're up to.
Love it. Next clip, I believe, is this is sort of a staple on my show. Transition threes, yay or nay. So, for anybody who's listening, their guard comes down, point straight away, fires it off. We're 21 on the shot clock, so we're 3 seconds up the floor. What's your philosophy on the transition three? And can anybody have the green light if you're a yes man on it?
I don't have a written in parchment philosophy on a transition three. As I've said to my guys a lot, I will treat you as adults until you behave like children. If they need to make good decisions, this is Steve Coffey, our import. I can respect him as a player, that he has hit that shot before at training. He knows his game very well. He thinks there's an opportunity there early in the game. It's only 5-7. I can't tell you what the preceding possessions were before that, but I'm not too disappointed by that shot particularly. We've got a rebounder in there. We've got JR coming to the rim. There's a few guys in this team. Steve's one, Daniel would be another, Fisto. There's a couple of guys that I'm pretty happy that if they were to pull up, they pull up if they think it's a good shot. If I think we're overdoing it, we're overdoing it. And we're going to have that conversation, right? It's like, okay, let's just dial it back here. We don't need to shoot a quick one, but in respect to our guys, I don't think I ever had to say that.
Love it.
Or to any of our guys particularly.
The fact that they're discerning and sort of know their games probably factors into a 17-0 season as well, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This one was just an interesting set, I thought. So the ball's brought up in the offensive right slot. It's swung to the other side to the big. It's a bit of a flip back action that turns into an empty side. We kind of missed that screen, and then there's a roll, and it's not really a roll and replace action because the replace is happening from, I guess, would be the far side corner. And then we swing the ball, and we've got a contested three, but he knocks it down, shoots the lights out of it. Talk to me about the set. Talk to me about options. Talk to me about the way you feel you executed and spacing for your screens, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, pretty popular set for us. Gets the ball moving, a lot of ball action. Again, goes back to the presence that we want an on-ball screen here. But look, gets the ball back in Steve's hands. So Steve gets rid of it, gets it back again, which is what we want. Yes, we missed that screen, which is probably the money screen, that second on ball. That tends to get Steve a lot of jump shots, a lot of little mid-range jumpers that he loves. He loves that off the backboard corner jump shot and feeds a lot of that, especially when he maybe hasn't got a lot of shots in recently. We've then got our 7-footer going to the rim with a back screen on him, so we can lob it to him if we wanted to, and we have done. We reverse the ball here. He would normally seal. Lou didn't seal inside, but Lou could seal in there and we could dump it back inside again. Daniel pulled the trigger here again. He's comfortable, he's set. He's very good at moving off the ball. Very, very good at what I call floating. Dan sort of floats and drops and shifts really well as a basketball player. And this is a really good example of that. He's noticed his guy's really low on the block and he's just drifted up. And you can see from his defender hasn't got an eye on him at all. And Dan's realized that early. And he's moved up, so he's in a good passing angle.
Love it. The back screen for your big, the gentleman who sets this back screen, where would he typically exit for this set? Would you have?
He would pop out. So he would pop out. So that pass has gone really early, and because the on ball didn't work, it probably doesn't look as sharp. But normally that guy who made that pass across the floor would actually be at the block. So Chan actually missed that on ball screen. So normally he would roll, but instead here he's popped, and then normally Fisto would come up off that. And so he would actually normally have quite an open shot too, because he set the back screen, and then guys worry about the 7-footer and not about Fisto.
I see. So this gentleman here, you said, would normally be at the block, and then this gentleman would probably pop, and the reverse would come through him typically.
Yeah.
Got it. Love it. It's a good set. I like that one. We've got another interesting action. This was a wing entry with a UCLA cut. And then after the UCLA cut, the ball is reversed through your big. And then we got a pin down on the same side of the ball. All this action's happening on the right side. We throw it into the block. And then this gentleman just basically goes to work down there, gets himself a nice little at the rim. So talk to me about, options, what you're trying to establish. Is this a play call at this point? And what would the big do typically in this set if this primary action of throwing it in doesn't work?
Yeah, so we've got this ball. Yeah, we got a UCLA cut. We put our shooter Steve on the baseline. He can then pick a side. So he can now go out the far side on a double stagger. He can come out ball side, close side here, on a simple pin down. And this is kind of an action we want here, pin down to post up. Chan's a big physical athlete. You know, again, another guy's come back from the US, big physical athlete, can hammer it home if need be. We've got him now on a switch, which we want. They've switched the little guard out on this, which is nice. And so Chan can take him to work inside. So we like that. We'll run this on the other side of the floor. On the stagger side, same deal. You know, we'll back and pin down again. And the big here is basically just drawing the big away from the rim. Their big here can't come away. He's got a guard. They actually went a little small here on us, which is what they tried to do during the game. I'm pretty happy that Lou, whether you can or you can't see that on film, Lou is a very agile human being. I'm happy for him to catch the ball that high on the rim. If you want to overplay him, I can think of nothing worse than seeing him coming down the lane.
Get out of the way.
So, you know, we're happy for him to be there. So, yeah, so this one really here is actually just to get Steve some ball time and get a little bit of movement too, and try to see if we can get something either inside or outside.
And if I'm not mistaken, this, I believe, was the first set of the second quarter. Was there any thought of trying to get this particular player going? Is that sort of what's going on in there?
We look at Chan and we'll see a matchup because we know he's a very physical human being. So we will see that and we'll go, let's just get it in there. Probably out of our small forwards, Chan's the better back to the basket player.
Right.
Not that not that move is particularly post-ish. It's very just athletic, really. He just turns on his guy and takes him at the rack.
Right.
But you know, but I know that Chan could do that and he'll take a knock. And he's, you know, for a non-post player, he's probably our best back to the basket guy. So we were looking, we ran this play a lot in this game. They decided to go small ball. So we decided to try to really attack him at in the paint a bit more than normal in the half court.
I mean, he does have those Karl Malone, Dwight Howard shoulders going on. So probably takes a lot of space up down there.
He's a physical beast. There's no doubt about it.
So we got an offensive empty side pick and roll basically that's happening here. And all that we got is the ball on the right, you know, wide wings, wide slot area where those two come together. And we just have an empty side, attack through the nail, roll banana cut all the way to the rim. I was more interested than anything in terms of what your help side strategies are in terms of, do you cut people normally? Do you hold? Do you let your players sort of choose what they're doing there? And you know, what you think of the set overall in terms of who's involved versus who could be involved, that type of deal.
Yeah, this is a transition call. You know, as you probably see early on, there's a little fumble from Steve. He doesn't look too comfortable there. We see him a little bit out of kilter from a transition point of view. He's just called that early. We're 15 seconds into the shot. We only got 15 seconds on the shot clock left. That's just a really early call from Steve for an on ball, which again, as I said, we're an on ball team. That's what we do. You know, so he's happy to make that call. They've got Dev on the floor. They're big. Again, we've exposed they're big. That's why they went small. Again, JR going to the ring. That's what he does. And we don't want too much movement. Truth be told, I don't want too much movement. I want guys, when guys roll to the ring, I either want roll replace or I want open space. I don't want guys moving. I don't see an advantage to it. It almost frustrates me when I was an assistant coach. I used to see offenses where a guy would cut under where a guy is rolling. I just think it doesn't make any sense to me. I want to attack it. I want to attack the ring. And then if you've got to help, you have to help. I'm not going to bring help to you to help you out on defense. You're going to have to find your own help.
It's very interesting that you say that, because I'm sort of similar in my personal philosophy, and I don't hear very many coaches say that. And I'm like, but you're cutting a guy onto his drive line or onto his roll line. Like, where's he supposed to go there? I don't understand what's happening. But I mean, I understand the principle behind it sometimes of like making that help move, or you know, like sort of mixing up the other team as to who their low man is. I get that, but I find with my players a lot of the time, they don't move quickly enough when they're off the ball, so they're still arriving as opposed to already where they're supposed to be type deal. And sort of messes up the timing.
Yeah, look, I don't mind some exchanging, and that's probably something when I look back on our season, we probably didn't do a good enough job off the ball of maybe setting a little down screen, little exchange here might just pull that second help defender away. You know, if Daniel and I think it's Ben there, if they sort of exchange from wing to corner, you know, maybe that causes the help, and I like that. I like some exchanges on the far side to keep the help honest. But I don't want Ben to cut anywhere near that baseline. I want him to stay right there. Yeah, he can stay right there, and I'm happy with him.
Love it. What do we got next? We've got, this is a defending set where they ran sort of a neat little action. I thought it was kind of side Spain is what I put in there, or a side step up.
That's what they ran. Yeah, it's a side Spain.
Yeah. So we've got a step up screen to start. So the ball's going towards the sideline, and then they just kind of roll into this Spain action. They pop it out. You guys switch. He gets the open look at it, or semi-contested look at it. You know, talk to me about, obviously you had it because you recognize it so early. Talk to me about what you would ideally like to do to guard this action.
Yeah, so we've guarded Sharif really well here. We're keeping in front of him. We have to drop a little bit here with Sharif to get under this screen. So that kind of puts us on the back foot a little bit. So we kind of have to pick our poison a little bit more. Again, so this, let's get this pin down. So he sort of comes down. You know, again, we're probably in a situation here where we have to gamble because we're more focused on Sharif scoring a lot of buckets on us. And we've probably given up a contested three. Again, I'm actually not that disappointed by this shot. I think we could have been a little bit, again, I go back to, could have been a little bit more physical on the screens as a defender.
Right.
That maybe doesn't allow the shooter here to get their feet set as quickly if we're a little bit more physical with them. But, you know, he gets this shot here. You know, let's have a look. He gets his feet down. There's a hand on him. You know what I mean? Like, we're not that far away from him, really.
Right.
I would have liked us maybe to get right up under him to really make him think as to whether he'd prefer to drive that. But you know, like, that's a contested shot. And again, my philosophy might change maybe if I go and coach somewhere else. But in our league, I coach the league you're in. I just, you know, there's very few players that can continuously just knock down hand in the face 3-pointers, you know, at our level. So I'm comfortable with this shot. Not happy, but I'm comfortable with it, how we defended it.
My only other question on this would be the switch that happens. Let me slow it right down because I know there's a little bit of a lag for you. The switch that happens right here on the Spain screen. Are you comfortable with this switch? Is this something that is part of your philosophy, or is this guys just communicating and trying to make the right play?
I'm happy with that switch. Of that switch, it looks like there's a delay. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
You know, when you look at this switch here, you know, that looks like there's a delay. And that to me, you know, and again, if we're switching, why are we stepping towards that player? You know, so again, it goes back to that philosophy of we're fighting until we're caught, and when we're caught, we're switching. And for me here, we're fighting, which is fine. But now we're caught, so somebody's yelled out switch, or hopefully they have, or, you know, we don't actually yell out switch, we yell out something else, but that's
right.
Beside the point. I won't give that away, but we don't call switch because it sounds too obvious, but we should be talking this, and it doesn't look like it from a body language perspective that we've done a good enough job.
And when this switch is happening, whose call is it? The player who is getting caught here, this gentleman, or number 5, whose man is setting the screen?
Always the guy who gets caught. He makes the decision of whether or not he is caught or not.
Okay.
The other guy doesn't make that call because he doesn't know. You know, maybe we got great body contact and we can fight over. So yeah, it's the guy who gets caught who makes that call.
Love it. This is first play of the second half. I thought this was an interesting one, just kind of sending a bit of a message, I thought. So we come and we get into the ball screen, but we sort of slip out of it before we have any sort of contact. And then it's just a throw behind where you kind of manipulate the tag for an open 3 because your gentleman who is on the other, the offensive right elbow, just basically slipped in behind that roll and made his man in a world of trouble have to close out, long closeout type deal. So how do we feel about the execution, and were we hunting that shot to start?
Yeah, this looks like a little bit of one of our sets we do here. It's probably not as clean as normally, but we would normally run this. We would clip back and then we would dump back inside, almost like a roll replace sort of action.
Right.
As he pops out, JR's gone early, which is fine. Like, he's read that. He's like, I'm going to slip this a little early. Again, we talk about this, you know, we might have spoken about this, maybe not. We definitely would have spoken about the play call to start the quarter.
Right.
To look at that early, but they've got to respect Steve. So it looks like here that they've basically put too much on the ball, which then allows us to get that kick out. And then again, Daniel, go back to Daniel Steen again. You know, great movement.
Yeah. Stop leaving this guy open.
Yeah, like just exactly right. Like just a nightmare. You know, like just a nightmare.
Love it. I've got, this is like their go-to set, and it kind of looked like you guys. There were probably 3 or 4 of this set in a row in the. I don't remember if this was the third quarter or the fourth. I think this is the third quarter. 3 or 4 times in a row, which sort of brought them back into the game. And on this one, I pulled the one where you sort of helped off of the corner on the ball side. So just to look at it, we call this Horn's chest over here. It's a ball screen going in one direction and then a flare screen for the ball screen player. And then you dive the flare screen player. On this one, it looked like he was going to follow with another ball screen. And I believe this is their import player, just attacks left-handed, kind of pulls in your guy off the corner and gets to the rack. So talk to me about this set and sort of like what you wanted to do, and what's sort of your principle on when a team is hammering you with the same set over and over and over again? What do you want to do? What do you want to do at that point?
Yeah, so they ran this last time, so we're pretty aware of it. We'd spoken about really dropping, which we probably didn't. Our man guarding the ball screen here doesn't drop, probably low enough, too high up. We wanted to really show him there a bit lower. That way Sharif doesn't have a really nice look at the ring. And then that way there's heaps of space there to slide under that flare screen. If we drop, then there's heaps of room there for Daniel to slide under that flare screen, which he actually does a pretty good job of there to get under that flare. So he covers that really well. And then we're happy here to kind of help. I don't really want us helping off that corner. I prefer us to help off the opposite corner, which is what we've spoken about in our scout, was actually helping off this far side corner. But we help off the near side corner here. And again, you know, Sharif's a great player. You know, he's a great scorer in this league. We know he's going to score. We were under no, we didn't come into this game thinking we keep him to 20. Like, he's going to score. He's just going to score 25, 30 plus, right? That's just who he is. And I think the guy had 40 on us anyway, right? Like, he had 42 on us. I'm looking at the stats now. He had 42 on us, which is fine. I've got no problem with that. Our philosophy around Sharif was make him shoot really tough shots, because that's what we have to do. Make him shoot contested shots. He doesn't always make a lot of them. He shoots a lot of shots, right? So he shoots a lot of shots. He's not like a super efficient guy. And because of their offensive spacing, a lot of their guys are in the corners. Now, a little bit different here. They set a little screen here, but a lot of their guys are in the corners. So when Sharif was playing 1-on-4, if he missed, we just ran it back. And because they've got guys in the corners, they're automatically 2 men down on the break, automatically. So when I look at this film here, I see a guy coming out of the corner. I see a low pin down screen. I see another guy in the corner, and I see Sharif driving. So the only guy who can defend for them right now is 13 at the top.
Gotcha.
Right? So if Sharif misses this shot, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
Because we're coming back down the other end of the floor. So, and that's how we played them at home, and that's how we played them here too. Very same sort of philosophy. Changed a couple of little things, but very similar philosophy. But that is a common set, and we just have to keep looking at it, stay focused.
Love it.
When you see a team that runs the same stuff all the time.
We've got, this was a sideline out of bounds play here. Oh, this was just the pocket pass that was tremendous. This is why I threw it in. So you guys entered to the left corner, and we've got a very low ball screen, and then we pop the ball back up, and this turns into a almost middle of the floor left slot step up angled ball screen. He attacks left-handed, and once they're 2-on-1, throws this just remarkable left-handed behind the back pocket pass for a basket. So, I mean, it's a positive result here, but what's sort of your philosophy on, I don't know, flashy passes or players doing a little bit of panache or whatever you want to say, call it, etc. I mean, that's a great result and that looks beautiful, but I don't know that he can make that all the time type deal.
I don't think he makes that pass all the time, so I'm okay with that, right? Like, this is a late clock. Let's get an on ball again. Steve Coffey, our import, JR, a great pick and roll player. These guys are talking to each other with eyebrow movements by about this point in the season. I don't have any problem with this at all. Do I need to have a philosophy on behind the back passes? I don't think so. But I don't know. We all grew up loving the game of basketball. Isn't this the sort of stuff we love? Right? Like, that's, for me, that's the beauty of it, self-expression. And again, it goes back to that transition 3 situation, right? If Steve's coming down and trying to make 1,000 behind the back passes, well, we might have a conversation. If Steve feels like at this point in the game, I think this is a great pass to make. This will get out. It's a shame you can't see the crowd from behind where you are, but we had a good crowd in for this game. We've only got a one-sided stand at our facility, but we had a good crowd for this game, and because it was first versus third, and Steve wants to whip that out and get the crowd going, I've got no problem with that at all. No problem.
I'm with you. This is almost sort of the moment where I don't want to say stop becoming a coach and become a fan, but I mean, you have to appreciate the creativity. Like to even have, I mean, I don't know if he's right-handed or left-handed, but for me to throw this left-handed as a pocket pass is probably not happening at this point in my life. So good for you, man. Good job. But
I'm with you. I just think, we can't control everything as coaches, and I don't think I could do that as a coach to tell a guy that that's not a pass I want. So
right. Risk it all, apparently.
And I think they like that too, right? I think the players like that. They respect that, and we respect that. So that's how we want it.
And I mean, defensively, doesn't the air come out of the tires a little bit when a guy's throwing around the back pocket passes that they're finishing? It's like
totally, totally, absolutely.
This was another one that I thought was just an amazing take. You guys are up to 2 minutes left. I think he just jabs this guy off of a cliff. So this is a baseline out of bounds for you guys. There's a cut to the strong side corner. The ball gets entered and reversed. And then it's going to turn into a top pick and roll where he jabs left, goes right, and the player just gets caught going over the screen and hammers it home. Talk to me a little bit about options in this set, and talk to me about the play call at this point. Do you take it or do your players take it? And then, talk to me a little bit about how happy it makes you see the ball go through on this one.
Yeah, look, in ball plays, I don't put a lot of stock on in ball plays. The reality is over the course of the game, we probably at our level, for whatever reason, we have more sideline than end balls. So we might have maybe 5 end balls a game. And that's just because at this level, the ball goes out of bounds to the sideline more often.
Right.
If the fouls are in the lane, they're normally shooting fouls. So they're free throws, not baseline calls. And whereas at a junior level, you tend to be fouled as you're driving the ball to the lane. So there's a lot more baseline out of bounds plays. So statistically, I just don't see the point in spending too much time at training on baseline out of bounds plays. So we only had 2, 3 for the whole season. And they will generally call them unless I see something. Unless I'm like, these guys have done this or done that. Or I might call a timeout with a little ATO, come out. But this is a pretty standard end ball play for us. We cause a bit of hot mess and then we pop out. And Chan, as I said before, just a physical athlete, can run and dunk and jump and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, he catches this ball. This is not a designed on ball screen. This is Daniel being smart. He pops out. And Chan just takes his guy to the rack. And this is classic Chan. Like, this is what he does, right? Like, you give him some space, and he's such an athlete. He's a threat to put this on your head all the time. So,
wow. We got a defending clip. There's 90 seconds left in the game. This is a Hornets chest again, help on the ball side again. And, this is just basically at this point of the game, what do you want to see? They've obviously run it a few times. They go left again. He drives, and you pull in off of that ball side corner, and he gets that open three look at it and don't even close on it at this point. So
yeah, we were disappointed. Yeah, this is a disappointing play. We were disappointed with this play. As a coaching staff, we can't get too irate about it because it's a play is what it is, and there's still 90 seconds left. But yeah, look, we help off the corner, which we don't want to do. We help too early off the corner, and we give up we turn down a 2-point layup for a 3-point shot. I mean, it's just, it's not a great play for us.
Right. So that being said,
you look at that play there. You got Lou going to the ring to protect it. Ben steps off his man in the corner who's been shooting okay today. And Ben's not having a bad game today. Ben had a good game in this game, but yeah, it's just a bad decision. And that's just a bad decision. That's all. This is just an overall bad decision. And those happen. Bad decisions happen all over the place, right? It's just that one cost us. So.
Absolutely. And that being said, I'm always interested in like your coaching on the fly feedback type deal with coaches. Will this just be that was shitty next play mentality for you? Like you won't spend too much time harping on it when you're in game?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think I even spoke to Ben about it because I'm respectful enough to know that, I think it's Ben. I'm looking at the screen. I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. He knows. Like, what do I got to tell him for? Right? I got to, again, it goes back. I got enough respect for my players and the way they play the game that I'm not going to sit there and chew the guy out because he comes off the floor. Like, he's probably thinking to himself, damn it, I gave up one. And so that's that. Now, we might talk about it in the next timeout, which I know we definitely did in this game, in the late in this game, of we can't come off the corner. We got to stay tight, especially as, this game went into overtime. This last minute, I do remember coming into a timeout and being like, right, if they're driving, and we're contesting at the ring. We're just not giving up a 3-pointer. We don't want to be chasing threes. So,
I'm just curious, is peel switching something that is in your arsenal at all, where like this ball defender would go to the
court? Look, I spent some time talking to Will a period of time through Rising Coaches, but no, peel switching is not my thing at this stage. I like the way we guard things. I really don't like coming off the corners. I just don't.
I hear you. I understand. All right. So next one is, I think, one of the sideline out of bounds. Yeah. So this is sideline out of bounds. This is ATO. I'd call it end of game. The score is 102-102. There's 33 seconds left. It's you guys' ball. You're tied. I'll walk through the play. Basically, the ball's at the point, gets entered to the wing. There's UCLA screen and then a reversal. And then we hit the gentleman who came off the UCLA and we follow it with a ball screen. We end up shooting against the drop, misses the shot. What were you guys looking for? Do you feel that you executed well? And just like overall thoughts on the play itself.
Yeah, that's our wing action, which is what we ran before, which we showed before with the post up. Steve chose not to go out short side. He went long side. JR has gone for an on ball there, which we're happy with. We don't mind that. Probably going for an on ball into a place where people are cutting, which is probably, when we retrospectively look at it. But at the same time, happy with that. It's late. He knows it's late. It's 5 seconds on the clock. He knows he's got to get an on ball with Steve. Probably would have liked a shot at the rim in the paint with 20 seconds to go. rather than a three-pointer with a tie game, something a little bit more high percentage. We shoot a really high percentage in our league. We're the highest percentage shooting team in the paint in our competition. I think we shot close to 60 odd percent in this game again.
And I'm going to take a second and just jump in and say it actually really shows when you watch your game. Like you guys make a good percentage of what you take. You really do.
Yeah. So, we want high percentage shots. So, yeah, look, at the same time, I don't mind the shot from Steve either, right? He's an import guard. His role is to make big shots. His role is to be involved in big plays. And that guy hasn't got his hand up, and Steve's a good shooter. And let's have a look at that shot. It basically rims out, right? Like,
right. Exactly. Yeah.
His feet are set. He gets up into his action. He lets that go real nice. Like, there's every bit of that goes in, and it's game over, right? Like, essentially.
When you're drawing something up in huddle, will you specifically tell them who you want taking the shot, or will you say, let's try and get to this action and create something? And then are you also giving them the defensive side, or are you only talking about the offensive side?
We will just make a play call. I don't do a lot on the whiteboard all that often, unless I need to really show something to make it really clear. But we might say, let's run wings, let's get into that on ball, or let's run, Euro, and let's get that back screen, or whatever that play call is for us. And we'll just talk through that action. And most of our guys on the floor will know it. And maybe I might show it just to remind them on the whiteboard, just the last action. But, we go through, we talk about option A, option B, option C in our offenses. And so we can refer to them as those kind of things. Let's get that second action, let's get that B action that we're looking for here.
Love it. Love it. And then I think I only have the one more. I think it's the last sideline out of bounds here after this shot. So we're 5.2 seconds left. The game is tied. You guys are sideline out of bounds. Ouchie. Sorry, my daughter cut herself on the playground. It looks like 5.2. I was just wondering what you're sort of looking for. We get an inbounds. We get similar sort of action basically here where we shoot a pull-up three. Ball's in your good player's hands. And I do actually have one more clip after this because I remember what happens from here. This one had the crowd on the edge of their seats. Are you happy? Are you really just kind of giving it to your player and doing one of these at this point and letting him create? What's the thought process?
Yeah, when I look back on this one as a coach, I probably feel like maybe I should have drawn something else up, like drawn something up a little bit more. But I just felt like Steve was in great command of this game here at this point. Like, and that's, it's hard when you're watching clips, but, like as a coach, I just felt in this game, Steve was really in command of his game and his decision-making tonight. Not that he isn't normally, but I just thought he was really above that more than anything else this game. And so with 5 seconds to go, I felt like if we bought an on-ball screen there, they might double it. They might use that as a chance to come out and double Steve.
Right.
So I didn't want to risk that with 5 seconds to go and put Steve under heaps of pressure, where I was pretty comfortable here. If Steve could get a favorable matchup, which he gets because of the screen from Chan, we get a nice switch. He's now got a younger kid on him, with all respect to the kid himself. And, you've got an experienced American import. I'm happy for Steve to go and create there. He's not trying to win the game, he is trying to win the game, but he's not in a position where he loses the game.
Right.
So my mentality in this timeout is we can't actually lose the game here.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, if we turn the ball over, this is like a free hit, right? We got a free hit here. We might as well have a hit at it, but let's not put the house money on it, and then maybe we throw it away or we put too much into this timeout and it's a bad pass. I'd just rather get the ball in the hands of our best player or one of our best players, and again, put him in a position to shoot his best shot. And Steve's great at breaking guys down, and he broke him down, and that shot's not too bad. Again, I've seen Steve hit plenty of those at training. I'm happy for him to shoot it.
And then just the one last clip, it's the first play of overtime. It ends up being you guys' ball, which really means that last one was a freebie.
Exactly.
So you guys get the ball back.
Yep.
This just kind of sets the tone for overtime, I thought. It's
Yep.
they overplay on the inbounds pass, and he gets going downhill, and it's a smash for your 7-footer because only the low man is left. And really, I mean, I don't really even need to ask you about it. I'm only showing it because it really just set the tone for the entire overtime, where you guys end up going up like 10 at one point and dominate the overtime and win the game. But you know, I mean, basically, I just wanted to show the ending as to how it goes from there overall. What the game was like at that point. But I mean, great game, love it. It's unfortunate that you guys didn't get to finish your season because it was obviously something magical, and you had some guys that were working their butts off for you. But I enjoyed being able to go through this with you. So thank you for your time. And for anybody who listens, I hope you continue to find value in it. And for any North American coaches who are looking, please reach out. I'll put you in touch with Coach Reid. You heard it here first, like I said. You got some great guys playing over there.
No, fantastic. Yeah, look, yeah, that overtime was the way it was. Yeah, we went, 21-8, I think, against them in that overtime. Our philosophy coming out of that timeout was on balls, on balls, on balls, top of the key, on balls. And yeah, we were looking for that, and they overplayed it. But yeah, that really did set the tone. I think we might have had maybe 3 dunks in that overtime, from what I can remember.
Yeah.
And we just went at them, and our focus was to attack them internally.
Love it. Love it. It's always nice when you get the W. It always feels good for sure. But I actually enjoyed going through this. There's some games for sure sometimes that are difficult to watch, but this was fun. You got some guys that play. I hope I don't leave you with the feeling that I was picking on you ever. Of course, it's all for the purpose of getting better and learning what you guys are doing over there. Loved it. Thank you so much for your time. If you want to hang around for a minute or two after we turn the recording off, we can shoot the breeze a bit, but love to see it. And just thank you so much.
No, appreciate it, man. I really appreciate you reaching out. And I've obviously listened to the podcast and watched the videos a few times myself. So it was pretty cool to be asked and to come on and share our team. And I actually put out to our team as to which game they wanted me to do on this. So it shows how democratic we can be at RMIT. There wasn't a coach's decision, and the players all wanted this game to look at this game. And I guess that talks a lot about the culture of who we are. We're very much about our players making great decisions and hence being great players off the back of it. So, but thanks, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to wax about what we do.
And to your players, the fact that you guys can get a W and a guy's putting up numbers like 42 shows just how committed you are to playing and doing things the right way from your side without worrying about individual accolades. So
awesome. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I'm going to stop it there. Please tune in next week. Thank you so much. Appreciate you guys.